Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Scale 7 first ever virtual panel discussion. We are pleased to see you all joining us virtually, and hopefully we can see some faces in our auditorium at Scale 7 because we're open. I would like to let you know that our discussion will be providing our potential investor here in Qatar with relevant knowledge on how to invest in fashion industry and fashion startups, and how you can make the right decision to invest in venture capitals that invest in fashion or fashion tech startup, or maybe fashion and sustainable fashion. My name is Aisha Rumehi. I'm the head of special programs at QDB, and I will be facilitating today's discussion with our panelists, which I'm honored to open the floor to them and introduce them. So we have with us Miss Anna Maria Tarteya. She's the founder and board member of Angels for Women. Hi, Anna Maria.
Hi, Aisha, happy to see you.
Happy to see you too. And we have with us Miss Irene Maffini. She's a partner at Sustainable Fashion Syndicate UK. Hi, Irene.
Hi, everyone.
And we have with us Mr. Daniele Penny, the Chief Financial Officer at PINCO.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
So, Anna Maria, could you please introduce yourself in a minute?
Yes, thank you so much, Aisha, and happy to be here. As you said before, I am the founder with other 20 women of Angels for Women. That is the unique business angel group investing actually in Italy in female startups and scale up. And the reason why I'm here is to share with you our experience and to support you in understanding in which way we decide to invest in these companies, what are the requirements, and what are our projects for the future.
Can't wait. And Irene, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. So my name is Irene Maffini. I'm a sustainability investor. Most recently, in the last few years, I've been focusing much more on sustainable fashion and set up an investor group called Sustainable Fashion Syndicate to help innovators connect to investors. It's a pleasure to be here today. As Anna Maria said, they're supporting women founders. We find actually there are a lot of women founders in the startups that we look at, unlike other sectors in sustainability, which is really great to see.
Okay, thank you. And Daniele, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening again, everyone. I'm the group CFO of PINCO, which is an Italian independent fashion brand. I'm also a board member, and I am an investor myself in startups. So it will be a pleasure to talk with you today about fashion tech.
Pleasure to have you all. As you know, Road Qatar is marking the GEW Week, Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we kept running many activities, panel discussion, and I'm so glad to initiate in this round of this year that we were running a couple of activities related to fashion and fashion tech and sustainability. So my first question is going to Anna Maria. So why have you decided to invest in the fashion sector, and why do you think it is harder to invest to find the right investor, or it's so easy?
No, I want to start from the beginning and try to clarify a point. You know that Angels for Women is mainly investing in female startups or startups led by women, and we are not specially focused on fashion. Even if when we founded Angels for Women, due to my previous experience and due to the fact that some other business angels were from the fashion and luxury industry, we decided to create a section in which we decided to invest in fashion tech or sustainable or impacted startups. What does it mean? Mean that we decided to analyze the Italian market, but not only this one. We decided to select in different segments. That means the tech artificial intelligence, VR, apps inside retail, but also startups that were involved in creating new sustainable materials for fashion. And we selected during this year many and different kind of projects. Not always all these projects were able to perform in the right way. Also considering that as Business Angel Group, usually we invest our money at the early stage. So it means at the real beginning of life of these startups, offering to them the opportunity not only to receive money from us, but also to be supported in terms of mentorship, advisory, to cocoon in a specific way, or sitting this kind of startups also in creating or rethinking the right business model for them. What I can tell to you is that in terms of offer, we have a lot of ideas, because the reality is anyone that is creating a startup, and this is independent if you are a man or a woman, is I have an idea, I want to create these startups. What we usually do is to sit down with them and to evaluate if really there is an innovation or there is a potential market for them, if the team will be able to have enough strength for going ahead with this idea. And then only at this point, we decide to support them with our money, as I say to you, and with other kind of activities that usually we offer to these startups. Also, what is important is many of these startups are not, especially at the beginning, conscious about the potential growth that they can have, the market where they can approach. And so it means that one of our work is to define with them what is better to do. This is as the first stage. And we have many examples of this kind of project. On the other side, actually on the Italian market, but as I said to you, not only in the Italian market, we have many opportunities in terms of technology, in terms of gamification, for example, in terms of retail, especially in this moment in which, due to COVID, the retail is changing face, and we are approaching to these different kind of realities. It's not simple. It's not simple to select the right project. It's not simple to identify, in some cases, or to define if they will perform in a good way or not. On our point of view is we need usually, or we decided to wait for a period that is from 3 to 5, at least 7 years before doing what we define our exit. And so means that we are forced to be very patient for being the real results of our investment and to define if this startup will really perform or not, and if they will be able to find a real space on the market.
Interesting. I mean, like, this will take me to Irene. I mean, like, why do you think, I mean, like, investing in sustainable fashion is the direction you took? I mean, like, how difficult it is to evaluate or make the right decision to invest in X or Y company from your perspective?
Yeah, so kind of adding to what Anna Maria was saying, I also came to sustainable fashion from wider sustainability. So in the last decade, I worked very closely with more than 80 companies across many sectors. So fashion is actually something that I got to in the last 3 years. And out of the 30 investments that I made, just to give you an idea, 3 were in fashion. But the first company I invested in is a company called Petit Pli. They make clothes that grow with children. So they have clothes that can actually expand by 7 sizes. So they're solving the problem of children. They change size every 3 months. So they have a pair of clothing that you can use from 9 months to 4 years. And for me, the fashion industry was new. So obviously I had to help this company grow. And I took the challenge seriously, educating myself on the market. And the more that I learn about it, the more I realized the complexity of the problem, but also the opportunity to make an impact and also make financial returns, because there's really a lot of like emerging innovators in this space. I think Anna Maria mentioned material science, which is definitely a core focus areas for me, just because it's the area where you can make the most impact. When you look at the carbon footprint of most brands, 50 to 70% is actually down to the raw materials that they use. And this is really an emerging area of innovation. So most companies have been born in the last kind of few years. So it's very early to be able to know which ones will be successful. It's still very much in progress. You know, a few are now kind of, you know, a commercialization stage, especially when you're looking at new materials. So I think it's hard companies to assess because, and we can, you know, talk about a specific example, maybe a company that a lot of you will know, Pangaia, which I think is the most successful material science company. So they have grown revenues to 100 million in 1 year. They launched exactly at the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, it's quite amazing the growth they witnessed. So they seem like a retail D2C brand, but in reality, that's just a short-term business model. They're like a long-term business model. They're like a B2B licensing company. And a lot of these material science companies are this way. They need to show that there is demand for the product. So they might start as a direct-to-consumer brand. Then in the medium term, they might become a more like B2B2C brand. They work with established brands and they develop capsule collection with them under, you know, the umbrella of a different brand, and they work with a few depending on exclusivity that they manage to negotiate. And then ultimately they are a B2B brand and their clients are not the brands, but they are the manufacturers. They integrate in the supply chain. So I think for me, you know, when you were asking the question also, is it hard to find you know, interesting opportunities? In the UK, I think we have a really amazing pipeline of companies, but it's very hard, I think, for the companies to find investors that can understand them and also can help them grow. And that most of the companies we see have private investors that back them for quite a long time before they raise institutional funding, because fashion is a bit of a bad word amongst investors. This is a little bit changing, but mostly it's like private individual, high net worth, and you know, family offices that have exposure to kind of retail or the textile industry that invest in this type of companies, just because of the complexity, I think, of the industry, and that really being able to assess these companies and supporting them.
And I think Pangaia is a good example who could change that mindset that investing in fashion might not really work with the tremendous success that have created during the pandemic. I mean, everyone kept buying and purchasing Pangaia like crazily, like we did it ourselves. So thank you, thank you, Irene. I mean, this will take me back to Daniel. Can you tell us more about Pinko as a brand and the reason which led such an established company to invest in venture capital fund and startups in fashion?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I have a presentation I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
All right, so just a few words about Pinko. Let me see. Okay. So yeah, as I said before, Pinko is an independent Italian fashion brand with an entry to luxury positioning. Our distribution counts over 280 monobrand stores, which most of them are direct operating stores, as well as over 1,000 multi-brand stores. The turnover is close to 230 million euro with a huge presence in Asia, almost 25%. And we like to say that we create to inspire women to play bold. And as you can read, this is a kind of part of our manifesto. So we welcome creativity and taking risks. And that's why we say playing safe is not an option, and which is a strong claim. And I guess, I mean, I reckon this is something that leads us to invest in startup and in VC projects where you can gain value not only by the return of your investment, but also exploring new business models and potential partnership, commercial partnership with startups. At the same time, in PINCO, we care a lot about sustainability and environment. Just to give you a few examples, we have recently launched a collection with the designer Patrick McDowell with the aim of restoring and recycling garments. And we have been partnering and also investing in the equity of Freedom, which is a platform that allows everyone to plant trees and support local communities. And at the same time, I was like saying this to Anna Maria just a few minutes ago, I am quite proud to announce that we have recently established, like a couple of weeks ago, so it's really a new project, a new investment company called Sustainable Investment, which will invest in sustainable startups and green tech projects only. And yeah, this is it for now, and I think we'll talk again later about sustainability.
Interesting. Actually, my question, I mean, like the upcoming one was more about what role does the level of sustainability place in your investment decisions, which you just mentioned. You just launched a new company with a focus on sustainability. I mean, like maybe Anna Maria can share some thoughts regarding that topic.
Yes, absolutely. Because you know that as Angels for Women, one of our main goal is also to select startups or scale-up that are in line with the goal of the 2030 agenda. So means that, first of all, for us, it's important to invest in female startups, but also in kind of startups that will have an impact in terms of sustainability, in terms of reaching some social goals for the society. Only for giving you an example is when Irene before said, discussed about Pangaea, one of our investment was related to Orange Fiber. That was one of the first companies, for example, able to create sustainable fiber from the waste of the orange. So means that when they decided to start in this adventure, and was more or less 8 years ago, you have to imagine that into the fashion system, no one was aware or no one discussed about the opportunity to be sustainable or circular or to be focused on the problems related to the carbon footprint. So no one. Also, what we are focused to choose are kind of projects like this one. When we say sustainable, we prefer to define in terms of circular and circular economy. So working with companies that are able to embrace more concept related to sustainability, but also working with companies, for example, that are able to invest in diversity, inclusion. An example is another brand that is doing underwear. The name is Kite, that is not only focused on women that are only 38 or 40 in terms of a size. So means that if you are not perfect, this is not a problem, because you are a woman, you can express yourself in the way that you want. Also, the idea is how we can also invest in kind of startups that will improve the quality of life of people. So means that our idea in terms of sustainability is much more, how can I say, bigger than only, as I said to you at the beginning, fashion, but is everything that could have an impact in the society and could have an impact on the social life. This also because one of our partners is also focused in selecting startups that are functional in terms of social impact or benefit company that will develop kind of project that will have a vision in terms of future, that will be not limited in terms of how profitable will be to invest in these startups, but also probably for us as investor, limiting the profit or limiting the markup that we can have investing on them due to the fact that part of our profit will be reinvested in the social goal of the company itself.
Interesting. And Irene, what's your contribution in that? I mean, like what role does the level of sustainability plays in your investment?
Yeah, I mean, I think
you are investing
central.
In
so it's almost the first parameter is like understanding the impact of the business. So I personally use the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework to measure impact. So this is like 17 goals that then are backed by 169 sub-targets. And then and basically, I mean, usually, as Anna Maria was saying, I think in fashion, definitely sustainability is quite linked to circularity. So I almost see kind of the biggest impact you can make within the circular economy are at the raw material stage and then end of life. And that's, if you solve these huge issues, you have solved, like big part of the problem. And I also work with our companies to try, especially material science companies, to try to do a preliminary life cycle assessment as soon as possible, even if they're still lab scale technologies, just to highlight hotspots in the process, to understand quite early where they can improve. I also find that brands are, the ones that have actually taken seriously sustainability, have innovation teams, are also now using life cycle assessment in a way they select companies they work with. So it's a very, very demanding sector. And I think, it's very good to try to understand the impact from even, from very early on for the companies. But just to give an example of a company, or companies that wouldn't fit the impact requirements, so you can understand. So for example, we have looked at a company quite early on that's quite established, second-hand platform in the UK. And when looking at the details of their sales, actually, most of their revenues were driven by professional resellers that were using the platform. So for us, this was not really, impact, because it was a platform for professional resellers to sell kind of clothes. So, instead of, whereas, a peer-to-peer platform where most of the sales were actually from individuals who, instead of throwing the clothes away in a landfill, they were like reselling it, and, that was working. That would be something where we would see an impact. Or for us, a brand that uses more sustainable material, like, recycled polyester, that wouldn't, be enough. It's not like the core of what they do is not like necessarily sustainable. It's more like incremental improvement. So for us, it's like the core of the business needs to be sustainable. And these also measure, the more revenues these companies generate, the more impact they can also create. That's kind of the bottom line.
So the main measurement that you consider before investing is the production cycle and the life after of the product. So
it's hard to find companies quite early that have life cycle analysis, although some have preliminary or have expectations, and usually it's around water and waste, kind of saved, and then, CO2, but definitely would be, core. And with the Sustainable Development Goals, usually is a Sustainable Development Goals number 12, sustainable production and consumption is the main one. And then SDG 13, which is the one connected to climate action. So it would be more linked to the kind of CO2 reduction.
Interesting. That would take me back to Danielle. I mean, like you just revealed one of your recent project about sustainability. And I mean, like by highlighting this new initiative of your company, I mean, do you have a structured set of criteria to use when selecting sustainable startups in the fashion industry to invest in terms of sustainability? Or you
let me say that sustainability is surely playing an important role in all our decisions at the corporate level, but also as a human being, so it's also become, I reckon is becoming an element to justify also premium prices. So the main, our industry is dealing with the transparency of fabrics. So the supply chain must be transparent, and client seems willing to pay a premium price up to 20% for items with a positive environmental and social impact. So this is something I think it's quite interesting. But sustainability is not like an option. It's something that all companies must be in compliance with, and trying to reduce water consumption, for example, energy and so on. But let me say that sustainability it's also about people and governance, you know. So, I mean, you must have let me say, an holistic, you know, approach to this argument matter. So, as I said before, we have recently established this company, and we'll try to find a startup with have like a real impact in term, not only in the fashion industry, I mean, because we are also evaluating some startup from the plant-based sector. So we have like an open mind to investment, but yeah, all our future decisions are not only in terms of investment, at the corporate level, will be driven by sustainability.
Interesting. What kind of returns are you expecting of investing of these companies? You just mentioned that you are not only focusing on fashion with the sustainable company. So what kind of returns are you expecting if you are investing in other industries?
You mean compared to other industries? Yeah, I mean, it's, I mean, I know, I mean, it's a matter of a return on investment, but it's also for us a matter of partnership, you know. So, I mean, on the fashion side, we try to find startups that can like improve our performance, our value proposition. So it's not just the return on the investment. When we look at the other sector, as I said, like alternative protein and so on, I mean, for sure we look for a huge increase of value. Yes.
So Irene, could you tell us more about the sustainable trends among the fashion startups that you are currently capturing in your interest as a investment fund for fashion?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, I think material science companies are definitely the focus, because I mean, there are like many of them emerging from UK academic institution, especially from Imperial, RCA, UAL, kind of Cambridge and Oxford seems to be quite hotspots for like new materials, which is also like, I guess it's a reply to now an innovation need that, you know, kind of that is quite clear, that was not there, I think, you know, 5 years ago. And so a company that recently invested in is actually a Cambridge spin-out called Hyde Biotech. They actually take collagen from fish waste, which is a really abundant resource, and then they recreate leather-like material in a lab. And I was in Cambridge in the lab last week, and the samples are looking like really amazing, because leather itself is 90%, you know, collagen. So what they are creating is actually could be a good replacement to leather. And unlike competitors,
is this a similar technology of the companies who are started to invest in mushroom skin as a leather? Is it so a similar thing?
Their competitors would include mycelium-based, so mushroom-based kind of leather, and, you know, a lot of the plant-based leather, you know, like the kind of #1 in the world at the moment is kind of pineapple leather, ananas and anam. I guess, disadvantages of these companies is that so far they have not been able to reach really the required qualities. Even, you know, Hermes has launched a partnership with MicroWorks, which is kind of, you know, one of the leading mycelium-based. These companies have raised tens, if not hundreds of millions, you know, trying to do this, and no one has really been, you know, successful at creating something that meets all of the required kind of quality, mechanical properties, but also that leather is, I'm learning how hard it is to evaluate. It's very hard for these innovators to come to market, because they have a lot of mechanical properties that they need to benchmark against kind of ISO standards. But then there are a lot of tests that are very specific to the brand. Even, you know, the last test is, how does this feel in the hand of Stella McCartney? You know, it's not something that is very hard to prove, but essentially they want something that is a drop-in replacement from leather, that is the same, you know, it ages like leather, behaves like leather, but also can be drop in the supply chain, which is a problem of those mushroom-based and plant-based companies that they have their own proprietary supply chains. And so it's much harder, I think, kind of to work with them and also to scale them. Although, you know, there are interesting companies in this space like natural fiber welding that's developing something that seems to be quite good quality and doesn't contain any plastics and chemicals, which most of the competitors still contain. So actually when you look at, you know, going back to life cycle analysis, they might not be so sustainable, especially, you know, synthetic leather is definitely not sustainable, is mostly petrochemical, you know, chemicals. So it's kind of, it's very hard. Then when you start comparing them, you really need, in my opinion, to go very detailed to a life cycle assessment, where you also need to look at the specific product you will be making, the durability requirements. So it's a very, very complex kind of challenge.
But you never know. I mean, like with the progress of the science, I mean, they might end up with a completely new solution that could replace normal leather with a new technology. I mean, like you can't predict.
Yeah, I mean, so the idea, so at the moment, there are 10,000 at least tanneries globally. You know, there are 50 innovators in sustainable leather. And this is, you know, amongst investors perceived as a crowded space, but really there are 50 innovators, you know, and it's a huge global market where each company, you know, I don't know, like Pink, how many leather suppliers they will have, but they will work with, you know, it's not like just one company that you work with. And this is, you know, true across kind of raw materials. So my vision for how the industry will look like in 10 years, where now you have 60% polyester, 20% cotton, and, you know, very little man-made cellulosics and, you know, and the other materials, that actually you will have a plethora of new materials that we don't even, you know, they will have their own different properties, and they will be very, you know, different to what we are used now, especially when you start as well mixing maybe additive manufacturing with new materials. You know, the sort of the opportunities that will emerge will be very different.
Interesting. This will take me back to Anna Maria. I mean, like, speaking of Angel for Women, and you have just mentioned that you are not only investing in fashion startups. So what's the difference? I mean, like, what's the percentage of your investment that allocated for fashion startup? Do you focus more on other businesses with better revenue, or you have more focus on fashion? You're muted.
Okay, yeah, sorry. The idea is, as angel investor, is to differentiate, as you can imagine, our portfolio of investment. Even if what I can tell to you is that the fashion in this moment is offering, as I say to you, on a different point of view, huge kind of opportunities. We invested, as I say to you, in Orange Fiber, but also in another company that is Rice House. They, for example, are involved in the bioarchitecture based on the waste of rice, and they are able in this moment to produce a specific kind of materials that will be used in different segments that are architecture, but for sure in the future will be used, for example, as raw material for fashion. So it means that we are exploiting with them the way in which we can. Or, for example, what we did is to exploit other areas that will be collateral to fashion, for example, the edutech, because we know that, for example, in education, there is a big space in terms of training, in terms of learning 4.0, for creating new kind of professional attitude, also for the artisans. We are discussing a lot on how we can evolve, for example, some kind of jobs in terms of how you can create people that will be able to work on the, as you are doing, on the prototypes in 3D, or you can create much more STEM and digital kind of people that will support in a different way in terms of innovation, the fashion industry. And we are doing some kind of investment in terms of edutech, for example, or why not? The other kind of investment that we are doing are related to some kind of platform that will support people not only in directly buying, so they are not the marketplace, but also how they can create the connection between, for example, the name is Renun, and Irene before said about Pangai, and there is a partnership between Pangai and Renun. There is a platform able to select the sustainable brand, to put in contact the people that are searching for not only the usual brands in terms of sustainability, but also doing a sort of profile of our consumers, defining the level of sustainability that they are searching for, how much money they want to invest, and then creating a match between the consumers and the companies that are on the market offering this kind of product. So means that huge part of our business is invested in fashion. At this moment, related to our portfolio, I can say that probably the 40% of the Angels for Women investment are in fashion, or at large, what we can consider fashion or sustainable segment. Another part is in this moment dedicated to edutech, meditech, biotech, or fintech that are also kind of application that we can consider also interesting for fashion, because in terms of payment, as I said to you before, in terms of entertainment inside the store, or in terms of gamification for the brands, will offer interesting kind of opportunities for creating a match and a bridge between different segments of the business.
So do you predict that with the upcoming years, other sectors could take over fashion your investment?
Yes,
or it could go in parallel?
No, absolutely. The idea is how we can create a sort of, I say, hybridization between different kind of segment, because also the market in terms of proposal is going in this direction. Because as I said to you, you have a gamification company and will be used for sure, both for fashion and both also for other kind of entertainment market or segment. So it means that if we identify, as we have done in the past, some of these companies, we invested probably focus on one segment, but why not exploiting also the application on other startups that we have in our portfolio, or also supporting this brand in opening their doors to offer their services to fashion or to other segments that will be interested in working with them in terms of implementing, for example, their experience of what they offer to their client.
That's quite interesting. I mean, like, this will take us back to the pandemic. I mean, like, with all of the technology that startups come up with. I mean, like, guys, how has COVID affected the fashion industry from your perspectives? I mean, like, impacting on supply chain, and what have you done as an organization to overcome all of the challenges that everyone went through during the pandemic? I mean, Danielle, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I mean, we have faced the last 2 years, I must say, with great determination. And as I always say, COVID has made us stronger by allowing us to understand our clients' needs even better, and to support the wholesale distribution in the middle of a pandemic period and crisis, with all the stores lockdown and so on. So, I mean, one element was key, was digital. Digital was fundamental to get out of the crisis, and let me say technology in general is now at the heart of our business model and business decision. So through technology, we leverage CRM, customer relationship, and try to give the best service, to our clients. So, I mean, the impact, to answer to your question, the impact has been huge. We have faced lockdown, as I said, and also the fulfillment from our supply chain were delayed. So, I mean, it was a really difficult year, and let me say that 2020 has been the worst P&L, in our company history. But the good news that we recover really well. This 2021 will be probably one of the best years in terms of financial performance for Pinko. So, I mean, we are quite proud of what we have been done in the last year.
And Irene, how you managed to overcome all of the challenges you've been through the COVID?
Yeah, I guess I had maybe a positive experience, to be honest, through COVID, because I think there's been an increase in uptake of sustainable solutions. So we've, like most of my portfolio companies, so this would be across sectors, there've been, a few that have maybe been affected by others, especially the ones offering solution to hospitality, but then they have kind of pivoted their business model. So, and I've had a lot of companies have actually achieved great growth during COVID. Just to mention an example, the company I mentioned before, PTPD, they make clothes that grow with children. They actually expanded products. They launched an expandable mask, which has been one of the best-selling items, has been awarded by Time magazine as one of the best invention of the year. Like I think I've actually, I guess, again, I feel when you speak to people about COVID, is either went really bad or went kind of really well. And I've experienced more the fact that it has actually had a boost for more sustainable solutions. Within fashion, I've seen and the investment scene at the very beginning, maybe first lockdown, I think people definitely, slow down in terms of backing innovators. People were not used to, I guess, investing companies without meeting them in person, but that quickly changed, I think, already in the summer, like, after the kind of the first lockdown. And I think also investors have focused more on what they call now climate tech, and also on solutions, maybe on the material side, they actually take longer time to get to market, just because they've been looking a little bit more at longer term solutions rather than just focus on kind of short term solution and returns. That's definitely been my experience.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, speaking of all of the solutions that have been introduced with all of the innovators, the companies, I mean, the big brands, like all of us have witnessed that digital transformation has really affected or influenced the fashion sector. I mean, like when it comes to customer experience, physical retail businesses have shifted to online. I mean, like, Anna Maria, what do you think? Brands, how brands reacted toward such big movements? I mean, like everyone has kept investing in big boutiques and nice showrooms, and with the pandemic, I think a lot of transition happened with the digital transformation to all of the customer experience. How do you see this big change affecting the market, the retail market in the fashion industry?
What I can say to you, as also Irene and Daniele said, it's quite a must-have for the company now. We cannot imagine that the world will be back to 2 years ago. And also we have to be conscious that our new consumers, in terms of fashion consumers, are coming from all around the world. They are very young, they are very digital, and means that actually they want to mix their physical and digital experience. And these up to the brands throughout the innovators and the startups, or creating program by themselves to integrate this phygital newness or this new kind of experience. I have to say that some companies were quite surprised by COVID in terms of opportunity to invest in digital or to accelerate part of their digital experience, because I can discuss this with Daniele. We know that luxury and fashion probably were not at the same level at other segments in terms of innovation, in terms of some retail experience or CRM or opportunities to interact with their consumers. Now, what I think is that they are really involved in this kind of process. We never discussed before, but one of the key points, it's also related for them, apart from the supply chain, also inside the blockchain. So how can warranty the whole process, how you can be transparent in each point of your value chain, how you can warranty the quality of the service, how you can interact with your consumer in a different way, how you can receive information from them, and how you can give back to them feedback opportunities, engaging. So means that I think that this process is more and more fundamental for the company itself. We cannot imagine the future without integrating this kind of evolution in the business model.
I agree. I mean, like, Daniele, from your perspectives, how Pinko is coming over such program? Are you nourishing when it comes to online shopping, or you just miss the physical window shopping, which I used to love to do?
Yeah. No, we have a huge increase of our e-commerce performance. But let me say that e-commerce and social platforms, social networks brought disruptive changes to our industry, and we experience the impact of digital transformation, let me say, across all channels and across all countries. And my answer is yes, the impact, is still huge, but we don't see e-commerce like, let me say, competition, with the retail or offline business model. But instead it's an opportunity to increase brand awareness at the international levels. For example, we have invested a lot in the last few years in our product identity, and now we see a huge benefit of this in huge retailers such as Farfetch, for example, where we perform very well. And obviously, the evolution of the physical store, we are trying to test different ways to generate footfall and traffic. So, example, it must be like an entertainment, approach. So it's like be able to combining gaming with entertainment in the shopping experience is something we are testing and trying to do. And in general, what I would like to say that trying to increase the customer database, I reckon, is the new real equity for fashion companies. So be able to have a good database and be able to, with the CRM, generate a lot of interaction with our clients. So that's a kind of equity. Database is often an equity for the startup, but I think it's an equity as well for established fashion company, also luxury companies.
Well, seems that everyone currently is relying on CRM as the biggest equity for each company, which we recently did. I just would like to thank you all for such an interesting topics that you have shared with us, and I will open the floor to receive questions from our guests. If you feel free to ask or raise your hands if you are attending. I still don't have any questions, so.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any question, comments, please feel free to put them in a Q&A box or the chat.
So Dina, can you see the questions? Because nothing is showing on my list. Josie can only raise her hand. Okay, Josie, you can allow to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Anna Maria, Irene, Daniele, and Aisha.
Ciao, Giusy.
Ciao, thanks for your very interesting panel. I have a question that, concerning something that we touched a little bit, that is relating to new designers, because we know that when we talk about sustainable tech and so on, it's a bit easier to attract investments. It's more difficult to get the attention of investors for new designers. As in Qatar today, we are launching this. We have launched a project about fashion designers rather than pure tech companies. I don't know if you can share any, let's say, suggestions for the designers attending, whether if they don't have a technical component, a technology component, how can they attract investors? Thank you.
Giusy, can I try to answer? Oh, okay, Daniele.
I was saying that it's not an easy question, you know. I mean, if I understand correctly, we see that there are some trends in terms of product categories. So, for example, formal wear is declining in favor of active wear and athleisure. So, from our point of view, in terms also of M&A and so on, we interest in those brands with an active wear categories approach and with a strong identity and a good presence online, obviously, and also with a sustainable approach in terms of fabrics. So there are also a lot of Italian startups operating on this.
So basically, you need to invest in your fabric technology and smart solutions in order to attract investors. So Anna Maria, do you want to have?
No, the idea could be also, because we are discussing about startups that are starting from zero. And the idea is if they select, as Daniele said, the market, you can understand what are the segment or the areas where the market is asking for some specific kind of product. And also doing from the beginning a sort of selection or analysis, for example, in terms of raw materials or technology that they can apply. So means not only limited themselves to be designers, but is working much more in terms of technological designers, sustainable designers, or try to implementing, as Daniele said, or as you said before, Aisha, some of other key points that will be much more interesting for an investors. This will be a good point for attracting investment. If you are only a designer or a simply designer, I can tell you, or you are a genius, and you have to demonstrate that you are a sort of uniqueness and someone that could be the new, I don't know, genius in the fashion or luxury world, or if not, will be very difficult being, if I can say, normal, attract investors, because you are not one of a kind, but you are one of the million of designers that are on the market.
I can't say anymore. I mean, like a very good example, which I'm really impressed with, is Pangaea. I mean, like it's a normal switch suit, but it's attracted people because of the concept they come up with. I don't know, Irene, if you want to elaborate more on that.
Yes, but you know, Pangaea raised an 8.5 million pre-seed round, which, you know, the average pre-seed round in the UK is 150K. So, you know, they had a huge kind of financial backing. You know, one of the founders, I think, you know, Miroslava Duma, comes with a deep knowledge and connections in the industry. They had an amazing influencer strategy. Maybe, you know, something that definitely I see the sustainable fashion brands that are quite successful. There are like a few in the UK. You know, I think Kristen Rayburn is one of the ones that's like going kind of like the best here. I mean, they focus on specific niche. I think, you know, upcycled materials, they go for a very specific style that they only have, and they're able to obviously, you know, show like kind of decent traction. Obviously the traction that Pangaea had, you know, again, with a lot of millions, you know, they hired the 80 people, you know, very quickly, you know, from a few to 80 in after, you know, 4 months of operations. So it's a very hard comparable for most companies. So I would say, and I meet a lot of companies that say, you know, we are trying to be like Pangaea, and it's, you know, it's going to be hard. But I mean,
we have a couple of businesses here in the Middle East. They started to copy Pangaea's model in terms of fabric and technology. So I can tell everyone wants to become like Pangaea, apparently.
Yeah. But they are kind of more a material science company, although most of the technology they're working on have not even been commercialized by them yet. I mean, I guess their only technology that they have that is commercially is flower down. So the alternative to goose kind of down for like jackets, that was the original material that they started with. But at the moment, I think most of the things that they do is recycled cotton. They have, you know, like all organic dyes. They've been experimenting a little bit with some textile with the kind of like seaweed fiber. You know, they use, you know, peppermint oil to, you know, to enable you to wash your clothes kind of less, but it's not like a lot of the breakthrough technology are working on or have invested in or are investing in. I think they're not yet kind of commercialized, which is their ultimate, the business model will be B2B licensing in the long term. So that's where in theory they will be making most money and the impact in the industry.
We have one question from Fatma to Daniele. She's saying, she said, I found it really interesting that Pinko has a message for women, play bold. How do you guys reflect this message through the pieces you provide to the market?
Yeah, it's not only about like pieces and clothes, but also about our brand identity. So we can say, we like to say that we like to reinvent ourselves. So for our clients to be, let's say, ironic, play with the clothes, express yourself through Pinko. And yeah, I mean, maybe in terms of clothes, just doing a mix and match, you know, in terms of like look. And at the end of the day is mostly about not caring much about other people think of you, you know, see this kind of free approach, like bold approach.
Interesting. I think we don't have any more questions.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. I just would like to thank everyone who joined us today. I mean, our esteemed panelists and our guests. And I would like to thank you, Dina, for supporting and running such discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aisha. Thanks, Daniel, Irene, Anna Maria, Stefano, everyone. It was really a fruitful discussion and session. Thanks for being here. And our dear audience, thanks for attending and supporting our event. We hope to see you in the future. And goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.